We are at a peculiarly dangerous moment in the world's affairs. You know, in 2018, when I first addressed the United Nations, I said then that this world looks too much like it did 100 years ago. Regrettably, I have come to rue the day that I made that comment. And we have gone from crisis to crisis to crisis, from pandemic to cost of living crisis to supply disruption crises to the question of the geopolitical disruptions that we're seeing now, to the whole issue of, as I said, the continuing climate crisis.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome back, and it's another day and another time we meet again in our live channel. Today we see the exploit that has sent a shockwave through the Caribbean around the world.
And we are standing up all of the entities that are needed to be able to fight these battles. And that's why I believe that if we don't have to deal with what we are dealing with from last night with fellas coming off of a cruise, it allows the nation to be able to fully focus on matters that really are beyond our control, but we have to treat to them because we live on planet Earth, whether nature or natural or geopolitical or technological. But when we have to stop now and deal with these other kinds of things, it diffuses the energy that we have. But it is really too early, in summary, for us to make a determination on what is likely to happen with respect to the oil prices, because the market may take the view that this portends well for the supply of oil. Remember that the U.S., a lot of the U.S. refineries are in fact built for the heavy crude of Venezuela. So we need to know that. And if they're in fact going to reach an arrangement, there may well then not be a deleterious impact on the market cost. By the same token, if the governance arrangements are such that they're unlikely to have any calm return in the immediate future, then all numbers, all things will play, and you may see some spikes. So let's wait and see what happens on Monday from the markets and how the markets interpret it.
I've also heard several countries calling for the UN Emergency Council
Security Council.
Security Council to intervene. Do you support those calls, Prime Minister?
I've always said that where mature conversation can take place, it should take place. I am conscious that the United States has a view that they feel strongly about with respect to the impact on their citizens of the narco-trafficking war. As to whether this is the way to deal with it or not is capable of debate, for sure. At the same time, there are those who believe that this is, in fact, a blatant breach of the articles of the UN Charter. And to that extent, the one place that we should be having conversations, even if we accept the events of last night, our eyes are in the front of our head, not the back of our head. And therefore, the time for mature conversation is this evening and tomorrow. Quite frankly, I would have expected that the Security Council should have been meeting already to be able to ensure that there are at least guardrails put in place, even as we speak now, to ensure that there is no potential for this precedent to be abused in the future by other countries.
So does the UN, the Monroe Doctrine that he mentioned override the UN Charter?
Well, you have a lot of work to do to educate our public.
Final question, Prime Minister. In case there is any mass exodus of Venezuelans out of the country, what kind of diplomatic support Barbados is prepared to give in that regard, basically?
I'm not going to speculate on anything in public, and I just want to give you the assurance. You know this government, and you know this leadership, and you know that we will do the right things for the right reasons. What I'm not going to do is to speculate and to give news stories for the sake of it or to fill copy, because we are at a peculiarly dangerous moment in the world's affairs. You know, in 2018, when I first addressed the United Nations, I said then that this world looks too much like it did 100 years ago. Regrettably, I have come to rue the day that I made that comment. And we have gone from crisis to crisis to crisis, from pandemic to cost of living crisis, to supply disruption crises, to the question of the geopolitical disruptions that we're seeing now, to the whole issue of, as I said, the continuing climate crisis. I mean, in the last 7 years, we had what? A freak storm, a ashfall, and one hurricane, Elsa, one storm surge that decimated the fishing industry, and then another freak storm that took a life here a few weeks ago. I do not know of any other similar time in my 60 years in this country where we have lurched from crisis to crisis to crisis to crisis. And that is why I say that sometimes if I am a little intolerant of those who want to play off the silly season as the place in which the playground should be, forgive me for not joining you on that playground, because I am now too consumed, and this government is too consumed with matters that even with every single ounce of energy, every single Barbadian, every single political party, we still do not have enough to fight through this. And I am now having to see how best we can perfect the art of walking in between the raindrops. So a little bit of trust is needed now, and a little bit of patience is needed, and that is where the maturity to leadership comes in, because rest assured, just as this morning at 3 o'clock I was up, just at 5 o'clock we dealt with the heads of government meeting, just as the National Security Council has met here for the last few hours, I'm conscious that there are things that we do not know and that we cannot predict at this point in time. But suffice it to say that we will be guided by first principles. We will be guided first by the protection of lives and livelihoods. We will be guided by the first principles that support Barbados' right and other small states' rights to be able to be protected in an international rules-based order. By the same token, we are not naive, and we understand that where large powers contend, large powers very often will want to show testicular fortitude. And that testicular fortitude may have negative impact and implications for small countries such as ours. Yep, that's it. I really want to thank everybody. You know, the ironic thing is that I may see some of you later, because even as we're doing all of this, I committed to the children of St. Michael Northeast and the children of St. Michael Central to give them their normal New Year's party. And in a funny...
This is because the United States and Venezuela has raised attention in the whole world. And that tension have drawn a global attention. And the Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley has delivered a message that has rooted realism, principle, and sovereignty. It was this week reports emerged that the United States launched a large-scale military operation against Venezuela, and that operation included airstrikes and capture of Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro. Now facing trials in the U.S. jurisdiction, the geopolitical shocks was immediately it had slight consolation, legal disruption, and hated global concern. Now, due to this tension, the president, or not president, a prime minister of Barbados didn't stay silent, means gave out the response toward the capture of Venezuela's president. The Prime Minister Mia Mottley addressed her nation with message that started, that's made many nations to listen or to get attention. She made it clear that Barbados would take no position on United States action against Venezuela, a stance grounded not in weakness but in careful awareness of fragile place small in her country. And the Prime Minister was not, or can say this Mia Mottley was emphatic in short. And she said that her government sees clearly that teen states are often caught in the crossfire of great power conflicts, yet they must protect their own people interests and economy without becoming proxies in far or large geopolitical battles. This has suggested the thing that rules-based international order, small states matter, or can say not naive, rules-based international order and small states matters. Actually, we see the Prime Minister of this country has emphasized the government has emphasized her government that should protect its people interests and economy without becoming proxies in larger geopolitical battles. What does it mean? It means that has seen there are something will go on, or there are many things that will happen, but main thing is the government should protect its people interests in the economy of the country. This means that this Prime Minister has an overview that there should be protection of the people who are living, because not people who are concerning with battles, but the effect comes to the people. So has emphasized the issue of protection to people and interests together with economy. So means that the government should take care of those things in the country. And the Prime Minister Mia Mottley has reassured Barbadians that no citizen of Venezuela have been reported harmed in the crisis, a vital fact in a time of fear and uncertainty. Mia Mottley's message was not of fear but of principle awareness, or can say but of principled awareness. She invoked the need for an international rule-based order where the small nations are respected, not overlooked. This call at a moment of global turbulence reminded the world that the voice of small states matters just as the actions of superpowers. This Prime Minister Mia Mottley stance may surprise some, but it underscores a vital truth. Sovereignty, principles, and regional unity must guide the decisions of small nations in an unstable world. The thing that he has finished with are the things that the nations or other people should consider them: sovereignty, principles, and regional unity. Regional unity must guide the countries or the decisions of small nations in an unstable world. This president or this Prime Minister has said so to her country, but the message is not only to her country but to all other nations remains. As we have seen that there are some peoples who are begging help, who wishes the action that took place in Venezuela take place in their nation. But this Prime Minister has insisted about the issue of units, means that we can't move without units, we can't stand without unity, because one person cannot lead millions, but millions can lead one person. So this means that the nations who have remained should stand or should have unity so as to make their nations great, so as to make their nation powerful, and should stand on the principles, because the principles are the one which leads other nations. So other nations should have units, sovereignty, should decide on its own, not other nations should decide by their own things. No, the own nation should decide on its own issues. That is what is so-called sovereignty. So what's the message? The message is we should protect our sovereignty, we should maintain principles, and we should have unity. That the things that once we implement them or once we take care of them, they are going to lead us to make great nations with developments. Lastly, if not least, once you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and give out your comments. Without forgetting sharing this with fellow Africans who are here in the continent and those who are abroad. Thanks.